Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It is Wednesday, December 3rd, a little after 8:30 at night, and this is our daily recap video for trades and holdings within ULTY, LFGY, and SLTY. They are three YieldMax option income funds. Before we get started, a reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. Got a lot to go over today and getting a pretty late start. I will tell you, I attempted to do my first live ever, and then as I was trying to set it up, I couldn't quite get it figured out. I could make it to where you'd look at my face the whole time rather than my screen, so I still got to figure that out. Maybe one of the weekend videos where I got more time to play with it, I'll do my first live. But ULTY up 1.27%, very nice, making back all of the distribution on the very first day, or just about all of it. I think it was like 58 cents. So on the same day that it came out of the share price, it recovered. So gotta love that. Lots of green on the screen. LFGY had a great day as well, up 1.58%. Crypto obviously doing well today. And so SLTY, if everything's up, SLTY's going to get beat up pretty good, down nearly 2.5%. As you can see, lots of green, which is bad for them because they shorted them. All right, let's look at our spreadsheets. We had some moves for sure. They sold their shares of American Express, Teradyne, QQQ, and TMF, which was the 20-year Treasury triple leveraged funds. So out of all those, and we're going to have closed out all the options associated with them. And we bought, I don't even know how to say that, Jabil Inc., Micron Technology, and IREN Limited is back. All right, and then we get into the options. Alcoa closing and rolling to next week cost $1.9 million, but that's going to be because Alcoa is moving up quickly. Broadcom closing and rolling to next week still brought in a profit of $850,000, or a credit, I should say. AXP, American Express. Sorry, we got so many changes lately. I'm starting to forget the names of some of these different companies. American Express, $128,000 debit or cost to close out all those options since we sold all our shares. IBIT cost $1.4 million, closing and rolling to next week. IBM brought in $386,000, closing and rolling to next week. IREN Limited, we just added them back to the fund, so we're going to start the collar strategy, selling calls at 48 and buying puts at 36. Let me double check that I'm not giving bad information. Yep, because we bought the shares for $43.88. Jabil, $1.8 million credit came in. It's not just the collar strategy. There's also a put spread as well, so we end up having twice as many purchased puts at the 180 strike price. Morgan Stanley closing and rolling to next week cost us $731,000. Micron Technology, adding them to the fund. I think they've been here before. If not, they were in either SLTY or ULTY. I don't remember which. So just a typical collar strategy on them. Brought in $532,000. Closing out of options on QQQ, since we sold the shares, cost $568,000. Closing out all the options on Teradyne cost $3.4 million. And closing out the options on the 20-year Treasury triple leveraged funds cost $105,000. So overall, options trading on the day cost us $3.9 million. That's going to go along with share values of the holdings within the fund increasing by $21 million. I did highlight this because I wanted to go back. I talked about it yesterday in the video, how there was an error between holdings not getting updated, so it looked like we had a $16 million loss the day after a $26 million loss, but that was obviously not the case because we were still looking at Monday's starting prices. So from that, we were able to determine that if they were down 16 million from Monday's start, and realistically on Monday from start to finish they dropped 26 million, then they technically actually were up 10 million yesterday. So I just wanted to highlight that I changed that from what we showed yesterday. When we switch over and look at the holdings, we start off with the weighted move. So if you held everything within the fund, as opposed to ULTY, you'd have gone up 1.94% today. ULTY rather going up 1.27%. So not a complete upside, but of course we're selling options, and so that kind of gives up some of the upside in order to generate some income. So not a terrible trade-off. Alcoa, everything got rolled after a 6.3% increase. Analog devices up nearly 2%. No trading happened. Calls are now 4.7% in the money, and puts are 9+% out. Broadcom was down about 0.25%. Everything got rolled. American Express, we sold out of the fund and closed all the options. It was a 2% increase on the day. Just about 30 million in cash, and I believe, we don't have anything in government funds, so that most likely that chunk got used to pay out the distribution. I could be wrong, that's just a guess, but it disappeared off the holding sheet. It'll be back in a day or so. Obviously not that exact money, but Coinbase up over 5% today. It did take their 275 calls in the money by 0.69%. Circle Internet Group, the big winner. You've watched the video before. They're usually the big winner or the big loser. Up over 11%, nearly 11.5%. It did take their calls in the money by 2.6 and 3.8%, but still able to capture a large portion of that. GDX was down 0.67%. Calls are 3.6% out of the money, and puts are 1.3% out. GLD down less, only 0.09%. Calls are still 2.1% out of the money, and puts are 5.9% out. Alphabet was up 1.2%. Calls are 3.2% out. Puts are 1.4% out of the money. Robinhood was up 6.1%. It did take their calls in the money by nearly 2%. IBIT was up over 2%. Those positions, the first set of the collar for this week, what was remaining, did get rolled to next week. What has already been rolled to next week, the calls are 4.2% out of the money still. IBM was up 0.3%. The calls got rolled. The puts are still 1.7% out. LLY, Eli Lilly and Company, down 1.2%. The only thing we've got there are puts, put spreads, with selling at 1070 and 1100. They're both in the money, 3.5 and nearly 6.5%. LRCX, Lam Research, up 1.1%, still just barely out of the money by 25 cents or 0.16%. Meta Platforms was down 1.1%. Their calls are still 2.4 and nearly 4% out. Morgan Stanley was up 2 3/4, just about. That did take calls in the money, and they did get rolled. What was for this week, the portion, the put spread for next week, puts are 3.5% out. Palantir was up 3.1%, taking their calls into the money by 0.6%. Quanta Services up just about 0.3. Their calls are still 3 and 7.5% out of the money, and their puts are 12+% out. We sold all our shares of QQQ and closed out those trades after that 0.24% increase. Southern Copper was up about 2 3/4. Their calls are still 4.6% out, and their puts are 9.8% out of the money. NewScale Power was up 6.5%, and their calls are still out of the money by 4.2%. SoFi Technology was the big loser, down just about 1.5%, so that's really not too bad for being the worst loser. Their calls are 10% out of the money. Teradyne and TMF, the triple leveraged 20-year treasuries. We both sold all our shares, closed out all our options. Teradyne was up 2.7%. TMF was up 0.68%. And Twilio, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, down 1.2%. Calls are 3 to 4.5% out of the money, and puts are getting close. Sold puts, that is, 0.09 and 0.8% out of the money. So that's how we had a nearly $21 million increase in the value of the shares within the fund. Looks like that may have updated. Yeah, so when we copied it earlier, it was 21. Now it's 20.9. Either way, that's really just a ballpark number. That's not the overall change within the fund, because every single share value or every single market value of every option also plays into the value of the fund, and all of them are going to change every single day as well. So this just gives us a big picture of which way things are moving. Average first call or closest to the money call is still 1.3% out of the money, so we have captured a good bit of the upside that we had sold. There's still a little over 1% we could capture before we're going to have to start paying to close out options. Of course, that is on average. Average put, we want these to be nice and far out of the money. They should be hopefully just free money. We don't want anything to ever go down over here, so 4.5% out. There's $1.3 billion in assets under management. People sold out of ULTY yesterday, 750,000 shares, bringing the outstanding shares to 33,427,500. NAV at the start of the day, 39.40, closing around 39.86. And we saw, I think I've already cleared that, 58.81 cents per share was the announcement. Today was X Day, and we should be receiving our payments tomorrow. All right, that's it for ULTY. Next up is LFGY. They had less trades, so we can get through that quicker. All they did was closed and rolled their call spreads on Bullish and IBIT to next week. Both cost money, $197,000 and $257,000 for a total of $454,000 debit on the options trading side of things today. Share values increased by a little over $5 million. When we take a look at our holdings, we saw Bullish up 7.6%. They did roll their options. Bitmine Immersion up 5.2%. Calls are still 4.2% out. BitDeer Technology up just about 9/10. Calls are still 7% out of the money. They got negative cash. I wonder if I could just owe somebody $2.6 million and $3.2 million in government obligation funds. So they're just about break even on sidelined money. Cypher up 5.6%. Calls are still 7+% out of the money. CleanSpark up 5.6% as well. Calls still 13, nearly 14% out. Coinbase was up over 5%. Calls are still 1.1%. So getting to capture major moves, major swings. 4.6% increase on Core Scientific, still 2.7% to go on that one. Circle Internet Group, the big winner here as well, up 11.4%. Those calls did eventually go in the money, but not by a ton, 2.6%. ETHA, iShares Ethereum Trust, up 5.3%. Just barely breaking into the money by 9/10. No action taken, though, on the majority of these. We said it was just Bullish and IBIT. Galaxy Digital up 6.6%. Calls are still 1.6% out. GameStop up 1 3/4. Unfortunately, those calls were already in the money and went further, now 3%. Same story with Robinhood, up 6+%. Calls were already in the money and went deeper, now to 9.5%. They also had 133s, 3 times as many, so this is the bigger position for sure that just barely broke into the money at 0.48%. They've got these deep in the money calls expiring December 19th that they purchased a couple weeks ago at 50. Those are now 62.5% in the money. We want them in the money. That's why I don't color that red, because red kind of denotes bad. So that's becoming very valuable. HUD 8 Corp. So let's look at that for a second. So that realistically kind of represents shares in a way as well. It's like having 36,000 shares. So at $50 cost basis. I'm not sure if I'm wording that right, but realistically, it's rather than us basically having 3.7% of our money in Hood or 6 million, we're looking at closer to 9 million between the combination of two, which would make that a very large holding. As you can see, coins over 5% with $9+ million. All right, Hut 8 Corp. Got to scroll around here. 6.2% increase, still almost 10% out of the money, so getting to capture all that. IBIT up 2% today. We saw they did roll their options, and that's another one. They don't actually own shares. They own deep in the money calls after taking advantage of some tax loss harvesting, which worked out well, right? So IBIT went down. They sold the shares to get to take a loss to put it up against gains, so we don't have to pay taxes on some gains, and then still bought right back into IBIT, but bought deep in the money calls instead of shares, and those are moving upwards and earning value. Something's looking wrong with that. Oh yeah, because they're $10 calls. Yeah, so they're way in the money. Mara up 4.7%, taking their calls 3.7% in the money. MBTX, we don't own any shares. It's just this put debit spread. They're betting against it, and it has been moving up lately. So those are dropping in value and will continue to drop after today's move. Mercado Libre up just about 0.2. Unfortunately, they were already in the money and went deeper to 1.4%. Strategy up 3.89%. Again, some of these were already in the money and went further to 4.5%. Others just barely broke into the money by 0.5% today. NU Holdings down almost 1%. This is one where they have a put spread rather than a call spread. So puts are still 8+% out of the money. Let me make sure. Yep, just making sure that was my put formula rather than the call formula. NVIDIA down 1% as well. That actually brought their calls back out of the money just barely by 0.2. Opera was up 2%. Calls are still 1.5% out. Puts are still 5.7% out. PayPal was the big loser, down 2.6%. Still out of the money on those sold puts, but just barely 0.3%. Riot Platforms up 2.7%. $16 calls are 2.3% out. SharpLink Gaming up 6.2%, and they're still out by 3.8%, so another good one. And Block up 1.6% with calls still 3% out of the money. So that was a overall great day. Huge moves, and got to capture almost all of it. So as you can see, moving up nearly $1 from where the NAV was valued at the start of the day, 27.31, closing around 28.25. There's 6,175,000 outstanding shares and a net assets of 168 million. We still capture on average about another 1.5% upward movement in the fund. And again, that's an average, right? We've got tons more room we could capture on some, and others have already gone into the money. And would we say LFGY 34.98 cents? So that's another one they captured, or they made back everything they paid out all on the first day, and then some. And finally, SLTY. Let's find it. All right, SLTY made a bunch of moves as well. We'll start off. They closed out their shorts on Block, QQQ. So I thought that was interesting. They added QQQ to the short and the bullish fund at the same time, and they took them, I think maybe within a day or two of each other, but they're taking it out of both funds on the same day, QQQ. So closing out that short, they're done shorting CleanSpark, GameStop, and Moderna as well. And they began shorting Chipotle Mexican Grill, Synopsys, Texas Instruments, UPS, United Parcel Service, Builders First Source, and Salesforce. Salesforce was one of those funds or the holdings that was added to ULTY right away when they started trying to stabilize it. They then took them back out, and now they are bearish on them. All right. The only other thing we'll do on the trades is just talk about where they're selling the puts on things. So Builders First Source puts are being sold at 110. Maybe this was a mistake because I don't know the share prices, and sometimes there's a bunch of extra digits. Closed out trades on anything that they stopped shorting. Chipotle $33 puts, that might be $230 puts on CRM. Closed out GameStop and Moderna and QQQ. Synopsys puts are at, it looks like 440. Let's see. Yep. Texas Instruments puts are at 172.50. UPS puts are at 95. And that's it. So all the option trading, not the actual jumping into or out of the shares, brought in a credit of 64,000, but overall share values within the fund dropped by 677,000 today because basically everything went up. So if we scroll down, the biggest loser is actually the only loser. So if you're shorting everything in this fund and only one thing goes down, you're having a bad day. Everything else went up, and some Rigetti up as much as 9%. So that definitely did not go well for them today. As we look, even with the upward movement, they've got some puts that are way in the money on Better Home and Finance. They got some calls in. Well, GameStop's closed out now. Puts in the money just barely on Lemonade. And Unicure puts are 2 to 10% in the money. Block is closed out as well. All right, 27 million in assets under management. Average put is about 4.6% out of the money. And there's 750,000 outstanding shares. NAV at the start of the day, 36.19, closing around 35.60. And again, tomorrow is payday. So that's all I've got for you for this video. Again, I wish I could have done it live because then we would just be ending now instead of me needing to start the upload, which takes a ton of time, followed by all the processing and checking. So this video's unfortunately coming out late, so I apologize. All right, thank you for all the support, and I got a dad joke for you before we get out of here. So what do you get when you cross an angry sheep with a grouchy cow? An animal that's in a bad mood. All right. Have a good night. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Good luck trading tomorrow.